Principles and theories of information processing. Information processing is an approach in cognitive psychology that explains the human mind as a system that receives, processes, stores, and retrieves information. It compares human cognition to the working of a computer. Just as computer receives input, processes it, and produces output, the human mind receives sensory input, interprets it, stores it in memory, and uses it for action. Information processing is important in learning and memory because it explains how information enters the mind, how attention selects it, how it is encoded, how it is stored, and how it is later retrieved. The main principles of information processing. The first principle is limited capacity. Human beings cannot process unlimited information at one time. Attention and working memory have limits. For example, a student cannot fully listen to a lecture, write notes, check phone messages, and solve a problem all at the same time. The second principle is control mechanism. The mind requires an executive control system to regulate attention, encoding, storage, and retrieval. This control mechanism decides what to focus on, what to ignore, and how to organize information. The third principle is two-way flow of information. Human cognition uses both bottom-up and top-down processing. Bottom-up processing begins with sensory input, and top-down processing uses previous knowledge, expectations, and memory to interpret incoming information. The fourth principle is biological preparedness. Human beings are naturally prepared to process certain types of information. For example, infants show special sensitivity to faces and language sounds. Talking about the information processing in learning and memory, the information processing explains learning as a movement of information through different mental stages. First, information enters through the senses. Then, attention selects some information for further processing. Working memory actively processes it. Through rehearsal, organization, and meaningful encoding, information moves into long-term memory. Later, retrieval brings it back into the conscious use. Talking about the major theories, one major theory is Atkinson and Shriffin's stage model of memory. It proposes three stages: sensory, memory, short-term memory, and long-term memory. Another important theory is Craig and Lockhart's level of processing model. It says that memory depends not merely on storage stages but on depth of processing. Deep semantic processing produces better memory than shallow sensory processing. Working memory theory explains memory as an active system used for reasoning, comprehension, and learning. Talking about the Sternberg's information processing approach, explains intelligence in terms of mental components such as encoding, comparison, decision making, and response execution. Next, we have Bloom's taxonomy, which is also linked with cognitive processing because it arranges learning from lower to higher levels: knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. Information processing theory gives a scientific explanation of learning, memory, and thinking. It shows that cognition is an organized process involving attention, encoding, storage, retrieval, and control. It remains one of the most important approaches in cognitive psychology. Additional explanation for IGNOU exams. For examination purposes, cognitive psychology should be written as scientific approach to mind and behavior. It does not reject behavior, but it explains behavior by studying internal processes such as attention, perception, learning, memory, language, and reasoning. This makes the field different from strict behaviorism. The answer becomes stronger when the historical development, information processing approach, and research methods are connected. Cognitive psychology uses experiments, observation, case studies, brain-based methods, and computer models to study processes that cannot be directly seen but can be inferred from performance. Thank you.